January 2nd, 2015, from the Alamodome in San Antonio, Texas. It was the Alamo Bowl between the Kansas State Wildcats and the UCLA Bruins. So UCLA would get the ball first. They had it on their own 23 after the kickoff. And on the first play from scrimmage, Brett Hundley hit Thomas Stewart for a 19-yard reception that brought the ball to the UCLA 42. And then on the second play from scrimmage, Devin Lucien ran it 34 yards all the way to the K-State 24. They're then faced with a 3rd and 5 from the 19, and Brett Hundley hit Devin Lucien for a 9-yard pass. And now it was 1st and goal on the 10, and Brett Hundley ran it in himself for the 10-yard touchdown to put the Bruins on the scoreboard first in this game, with the score UCLA 7, Kansas State 0. So now K-State would get the ball after the kickoff on their own 25, and on first down, Jake Waters was sacked by Eric Kendricks. They weren't able to recover from that, and they went 3 and out on the possession, and they would end up punting from their own 17. So now the Bruins would take over on their own 41 with about 11.5 minutes still left in the first. They brought the ball into K-State territory with a 30-yard run by Paul Perkins on 3rd and 6 from the 45 to make it a first down on the 25. Then on 3rd and 2 from the 17, Paul Perkins ran 4 yards for the first down at the 13-yard line. They weren't able to get in the end zone or get another first down, though. And out would come Fairbairn for a 27-yard field goal attempt. It was up, and it was good, and it was now UCLA 10, K-State 0. So now Kansas State would get the ball on their own 5-yard line after the kickoff. They got a holding penalty on the return, so they were backed up against their own end zone. They did get a first down, but then after a couple of incomplete passes on 2nd and 3rd and long, out came the punting unit after 5 plays to punt from the 17. So now UCLA would get the ball after the punt on their own 29. There's about 6 minutes left in the first quarter. Brett Hundley then went to Jordan Payton. He picked up 13, the first down at the 42. Then on 2nd and 3 from the 49, Brett Hundley went to Mosi Johnson. He picked up 3 yards in the first down at the K-State 48. Then on 2nd and 5 from the 43, Hundley hit Mosi Johnson for an 8-yard reception. Now it was the first down at the 35. A penalty would move him backwards. And then on 2nd and 18 from the 43, Hundley went to Devin Lucien for a 13-yard reception. That brought up 3rd and 5 from the 30. Paul Perkins then picked up 2 yards. Now it was 4th and 3 on the K-State 28 for the Bruins. And instead of going for the field goal, it would have been a 45-yard attempt. They elected to go for it on 4th and 3. And Brett Hundley took it all the way to the house, 28 yards for the touchdown. And it was now UCLA 17, K-State 0. So they score on the 4th down with a 28-yard run when they only needed 3 yards. So now K-State would get the ball on their own 22 after the kickoff with about a minute and a half left in the first. Jake Waters ran for 25 yards, and then a personal foul against UCLA would bring the ball from the K-State 22 all the way to the UCLA 38 for the first down. Then on 2nd and 7 from the 35, DeMarcus Robinson ran 6 yards, a yard shy of the first down, but that brought the first quarter to a close. So after 1 quarter of play, the score was UCLA 17, K-State 0, as the Bruins blanked the Wildcats in the first quarter and put all the points on the scoreboard. But now to open up the second quarter, K-State had the ball on the UCLA 29. It was 3rd and 1. DeMarcus Robinson ran 2 yards to the first down at the 27. He then lost 8 yards on 2nd down to make it 2nd and 18. Waters then hit Tyler Lockett for an 11-yard pass that made it 3rd and 7 from the 24. And Jake Waters dropped back to pass, and he was sacked by Deion Hollins. And so now out came Matthew McCrane to attempt a 47-yard field goal. It was up, and it was good. So they finally got points on the scoreboard, and it was now UCLA 17, K-State 3. So now the Bruins would take over on their own 28 after the kickoff with 12 minutes left before halftime. They would go 3 and out on the possession and punt from their own 17. It's an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Would end up pushing them back. Also, so now they punted from the 17. K-State now would take over on the UCLA 15 after a 41-yard return on the punt by Tyler Lockett. So now it's 1st and 10 on the 15 for K-State, but they weren't able to get in the end zone or get a first down for that matter. And they would end up bringing out Matthew McCrane to attempt a 29-yard field goal. It was up, and it was good. And it was now an 11-point game with the score UCLA 17, K-State 6. So now the Bruins get the ball on their own 24 with about 10 minutes left in the second quarter. They were faced with a 3rd and 11 from the 23, and Brett Hundley dropped back, and he was sacked by Marquell Bryant for a 7-yard loss. So the Bruins went 3 and out and would punt from their own 16. So now Kansas State would take over on their own 42 after the punt with 9 minutes left before halftime. They picked up a first down. They got into UCLA territory, and on 2nd and 10 from the 35, Jake Waters dropped back to pass. He was intercepted by Miles Jack. So Miles Jack with the interception. The Bruins now took over on the K-State 44 with just under 8 minutes left before halftime. And on 2nd and 10 from the 44, Brett Hundley picked up 12 yards in the first down at the K-State 32. They then gave it to Paul Perkins, and he ran 32 yards for the touchdown. And it was now an 18-point lead for the Bruins with the score UCLA 24, K-State 6. So now Kansas State would take over on their own 25 with about 7.5 on the clock in the second quarter. They went 3 and out on the possession, and they ended up punting from their own 33. So now UCLA would take over after the punt on their own 19 with about 5.5 on the clock, and they went 3 and out as well. And so now they would end up punting from their own 22. So now K-State would take over on their own 16 after the punt with about 4 minutes left before halftime. They're faced with a 3rd and 10 from the 16. Jake Waters dropped back. He hit Cody Cook for an 11-yard reception, a first down at the 27. Then on 2nd and 3 from the 34, Jake Waters ran 3 yards to the first down at the 37. And on first down from the 37, Jake Waters dropped back. He hit Tyler Lockett for a 24-yard reception. It was now a first down the UCL 39. Jake Waters then dropped back to pass, and he was sacked by Deion Hollins for a 7-yard loss. So K-State took a timeout, then UCLA took a timeout. Now it was 2nd and 17 from the 46. Jake Waters drops back, and he was sacked by Marcus Rios. And he fumbled the ball, and it was picked up by Eddie Vanderdoes. And so now UCLA would take over at midfield on their own 49 with less than a minute and a half left in the second quarter. Hundley ran for 7 yards, and an incomplete pass brought up 3rd and 3 from the 44. Hundley dropped back. He hit Jordan Payton for a 37-yard reception. And it was now 1st and goal on the K-State 7 for the Bruins. Hundley then dropped back, and he hit Devin Lucien for a 7-yard touchdown. And it was now a 25-point lead for the Bruins with the score UCLA 31, K-State 6. So the Bruins would kick off, and K-State took a knee, and this game would go to halftime. So halftime in the Alamo Bowl, UCLA 31, K-State 6, as the Bruins were dominating throughout the first half on both sides of the ball. So now to begin the third quarter, K-State would get the ball first. They had on their own 25 after the kickoff. They were faced with a 3rd and 6 from the 29, and Jake Waters hit Tyler Lockett for an 11-yard reception. That made it a first down on the 40. Then on 3rd and 5 from the 45, Jake Waters hit Tyler Lockett for a 14-yard reception. It was now a first down in UCLA territory at the 41. They were then faced with a 3rd and 13 from the 44. Waters went to Sexton. He picked up 20 yards in the first down at the UCLA 20. They were then faced with a 4th and 3 on the UCLA 17. They elected to go for it, and Jake Waters hit Tyler Lockett for a 7-yard reception. They made it 1st and goal on the 10. They chipped away with a couple runs by Johnson. Then on 3rd and goal from the 3, an incomplete pass would bring up 4th down. They elected to go for it, and Jake Waters hit Tyler Lockett for the 3-yard touchdown, and it was now UCLA 31, K-State 14. So now UCLA would get the ball on their own 25 after the kickoff with about 7.5 minutes left in the third. They're faced with a 2nd and 4 from the 31. Perkins lost a yard, and he fumbled the ball. It was forced by Ryan Mueller, and Dakota Johnson ended up recovering for the Wildcats. So now K-State had the ball on the UCLA 21 with 7 minutes on the clock in the third. They would get down all the way to the 2-yard line, and DeMarcus Robinson punched it in from 2 yards out, and it was now a 10-point game with the score UCLA 31, K-State 21. So they were down by 25 at the opening of the third quarter with 2 quick touchdowns, and it was now just a 10-point game. UCLA now had the ball on their own 35 after the kickoff with 3.5 left in the third. They brought the ball up to their 34-yard line. They were faced with a 3rd and 4. And Brett Hundley picked up 40 yards on the ground to make it a first down at the K-State 26. But they weren't able to get another first down, and they would end up having to settle for a 44-yard field goal attempt by Kahimi Fairbairn. And so he kicked it, and it was good. And it was now UCLA 34, K-State 21. So now the Wildcats take over on their own 25 after the kickoff with about a half a minute left in the third. And on 2nd and 10 from the 25, Waters hit Lockett for a 16-yard reception, and that would bring the third quarter to a close. So after 3 quarters of play, the score was UCLA 34, K-State 21. So now to begin the fourth quarter, it was 1st and 10 for the Wildcats on their own 41. Jake Waters dropped back and he was sacked by Eric Kendricks on the first play of the fourth quarter for an 8-yard loss. They weren't able to recover from that, and so out would come the punting unit after 5 plays on the possession to punt from the 46. So now UCLA would get the ball after the punt on their own 20 with 13.5 minutes still left to play in this game. But after 6 plays, they would end up punting from their own 38. So now the Wildcats had the ball back on their own 9 after the punt with a little over 11 minutes left on the clock. They were faced with a 2nd and 1 from the 18. Waters went to Sexton. He picked up 5 yards in the first down at the 23. They were then faced with a 3rd and 3 from the 30. And Waters went back to Sexton. He picked up 4 yards in the first down at the 34. Then on 3rd and 5 from the 39, an incomplete pass but a pass interference call against the Bruins would make it a first down for the Wildcats on the UCLA 46. Then a couple incomplete passes would bring up 3rd and 10, but an offsides against UCLA would make it 3rd and 5 from the 41. Jake Waters dropped back to pass. He was sacked by Deion Hollins for a 6-yard loss. So now it would be 4th and 11 from the 47. But there was a substitution infraction against UCLA, and so now it's 4th and 6 from the 42. Jake Waters dropped back and he hit Curry Sexton for an 18-yard reception, and it was now a first down on the 24. Jake Waters dropped back and went back to Curry Sexton. He picked up 12 yards in the first down in the red zone at the 12-yard line. Waters then ran for 3 yards, and on 2nd and 7 from the 9, Waters went to Charles Jones. He picked up 8 yards, and an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty against the Bruins would now make it first and goal on the 1, and Jake Waters somehow squeezed it into the end zone, and it was now 34-28 as the Wildcats had climbed all the way back in this game to bring it within 6 points. So UCLA 34, K-State 28, and now on the kickoff, the Bruins would end up taking over on their own 24 with 5 minutes left to play and a 6-point lead. They'd be faced with a 3rd and 1 from their own 33. Paul Perkins ran at 3 yards for the first down at the 36. Then on 2nd and 8 from the 38, they got a false start penalty. And so now it was 2nd and 13 from the 33. They were trying to run down the clock at this point. There was just over 2 minutes left to play. K-State didn't have any timeouts. So on 2nd and 13 from the 33, they hand it off to Paul Perkins, and he takes off all the way for the end zone, 67 yards. So just when it looked like K-State was coming back, Paul Perkins with a 67-yard touchdown run to extend the Bruins' lead back to double digits with just over 2 minutes left, and the score now UCLA 40, K-State 28. As the Bruins end up going for a 2-point conversion, but the 2-point conversion failed. And so now K-State would take over on their own 10-yard line after the kickoff. And they were down by 12 with just under 2.5, just above 2 minutes. It was about 2:20 on the clock. They ended up getting a call for a personal foul against UCLA. They actually threw an interception, but then the personal foul would wipe out the interception, and so now it would end up being a first down on the 25 for K-State. They actually had an injury. Boston Silverson ended up being taken off the field. We hope he's all right. So it was 1st and 10 for K-State on the 25. Jake Waters then hit Curry Sexton for a 19-yard reception. Now it's first down at the 44. Waters then went to Tyler Lockett. He picked up 12 yards, and now they're on the UCLA 44 with the first down. Jake Waters then ran for 15 yards, and now it's a 1st and 10 on the UCLA 29. Jake Waters drops back and hit Tyler Lockett for a 29-yard reception. And it was now a 5-point game after the extra point with the score UCLA 40, K-State 35. So now Kansas State would go for an onside kick, and it's something you had to see to believe. Is the kicker, the way he acted as if he was going to kick it off regular, and then at the last second he put his plant foot down, and then he did a move that looked like something out of a music video. He took his right foot and had it go behind his left leg, which was planted, and did like almost like a dance move, kicking the ball from behind the foot. It was crazy. It went right up in the air, right to a UCLA player, and the Bruins recovered the onside kick, and all that was left to do was line up in the victory formation. K-State actually had 1 timeout left. They used their final timeout, and this game was over. So the final score, UCLA 40, Kansas State 35 in the Alamo Bowl, as UCLA was dominating this game in the first half, up by 25 at halftime. But then in the second half of this game, K-State ended up outscoring the Bruins 29-9, but it wouldn't be enough to erase that deficit as they ended up losing by 5 points. So a lot of excitement in the second half of the Alamo Bowl, but it was UCLA all the way. They never actually trailed at any point in this game. They were in the lead from the jump. They started off by scoring those 17 unanswered points, then a couple field goals by the Wildcats, and then 2 touchdowns by the Bruins to put them up by 25 at halftime. K-State came out, scored a couple touchdowns. UCLA answered with a field goal. K-State got another touchdown. But then that 67-yard run by Paul Perkins really sealed the victory for the Bruins. He came up clutch with that big run to put them back up by 12. Of course, K-State brought it to within 5, but that was only a minute 20 left, and they did not get the onside kick, and so UCLA ends up with the victory in the Alamo Bowl. But in this game, Brett Hundley, 12 for 24 for 136 passing yards and a touchdown. He also had 11 carries for 96 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. So Brett Hundley had 3 total touchdowns in the game. Jake Waters, 31 for 48 with 338 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and an interception. He had 15 carries for 13 yards and a touchdown. So he also had 3 total touchdowns as well. But with Waters, it was 2 passing, 1 running. Hundley, 1 passing, 2 running. The leading rusher in this game was Paul Perkins. He had 20 carries for 194 yards and 2 touchdowns, including that game sealer, the victory clincher, that 67-yard run, that very clutch run that he had there in the final minutes of the game that sealed the deal with just over 2 minutes left. And the leading receiver in the game was Tyler Lockett of K-State. He had 13 receptions for 164 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Curry Sexton had 10 receptions for 104 yards. Their leading rusher was Charles Jones, who had 9 carries for 19 yards. The leading receiver for UCLA, though, was Jordan Payton. He had 4 receptions for 58 yards, and Devin Lucien had 3 receptions for 29 yards and a touchdown. So the Bruins do it on the ground. They had 331 yards combined rushing for UCLA. K-State had 338 yards receiving. So it was a running team against a passing team. But the defense of UCLA able to hold off K-State in the second half. They held them to just 6 points in the first half, and Miles Jack had the game's only interception. But in the second half, K-State ends up catching UCLA asleep at the wheel and almost steals this one from them. But in the end, UCLA wins, and K-State was the 11th ranked team coming in this game. UCLA was 14th ranked, so you could call it an upset if you want to. I don't know if you would, though. But the final score, UCLA 40, K-State 35.